Howdy, and thanks for joining us for Yates American B244. Today we're going to get these in-feed and out-feed rollers installed into the machine. Something else I noticed as I was getting ready to press these bearings into these housings is that this threaded hole for the guidepost goes all the way through, and so you have to be real careful that you don't thread the guidepost in so far that you end up hitting the bearing. That would be bad. I had to go back and look at a picture that I took of these to remember the exact orientation. The motor side ways have a smaller offset, and the drivetrain side ways have a bigger offset. And then the Zerk fittings, those small holes, those are to the outside. So that's how those are oriented. So that threaded hole into the bearing housing is about 7/8 of an inch deep. I'm going to need to lift this up a little bit. So I'm going to have these guide shafts screw into the bearing housing just 5/8 of an inch. So this straight edge is 5/8 of an inch wide. And so that'll prevent the shaft from hitting the bearing casing. These two lock nuts here will later serve to adjust the height of the feed rollers. So now with those guideposts partially installed, I can get rid of these blocks. Okay, it looks like because of the position of these bearing housings, I'm not going to be able to run this wiring through here like I had planned. So I'll come up with an alternative plan. Okay, lesson learned. So this lug is correctly positioned on top of this little shelf here. But on this end, it's below that shelf, and I can't rotate it in any way to get it on top of that shelf. I'm going to have to pull the bearing housing and the cog back off so that I can push this up enough to get that lug on top of that little shelf there. Okay, so I'm not the brightest kid on the block. I realize if I lower the table a bunch, I've got all the room I need to work with this guidepost on the motor end. Okay, that was only moderately painful, but both of the rolls are sitting on their guideposts and they're spinning freely. Once I have some knives and the cutter head, there'll be a whole bunch of other adjustments that need to be made to these in-feed and out-feed rolls. But for now, to get the springs on, I'm going to lower them just about as far as they can go. And I'll do the same on the other end. I'm going to compress these springs about an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter. When I got the machine, these things are almost completely compressed, so I don't want to compress them that much. I can always tighten them up more later on. So these jam nuts, they're thinner than regular nuts, and they require a special wrench that is thinner. So this is a wrench that a friend of mine had, and it was an extra wrench, so we ground it down so it would be thin enough to use for a jam nut wrench. The motor end is a little more of a challenge. One more little detail is get these zerk fittings installed. Well, thanks again for watching Yates American B244. We have a lot of work to do yet, but getting these feed rollers into the machine was a big milestone. Check back every now and then to see what we're doing.